All right, let's see what kind of trouble we can get into today. This is the Bite Me podcast, and it's happening, baby. I'm John Lopez. That is Captain Scott Knoll. That is Captain Dean Thomas, and that is Captain Caleb McCumber joining us just in time for the podcast. Lots to cover as usual. We'll see, like I said, what kind of trouble we can get into today, but a lot of questions, heavy on the questions and comments that I got from listeners, and Scott sent me one as well, and Dean. He and I were having a discussion about majors and minors, which is where we're going to start. But hope everybody's doing well. Really appreciate you guys joining us here on the podcast every week. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. It's a lot of fun. These guys are great. We always have a lot of laughs, and highly encourage you to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. I would encourage Podbean to be the first location you go because you can get every podcast we've ever done. Of course, group page. Man, we got a lot of, I don't know if you guys noticed this because you're administrators as well. Got a lot of requests for additions to the group page today on Facebook. So maybe word is getting out somewhere. Somebody's putting the word out about the Bite Me podcast, but that's neither here nor there. Glad you guys joined us. Going to start a little bit differently today. Just how's everybody doing? I feel like I just dig right in. I just dig right into all the topics and where everybody is. Catch us up. Tell us about you, Caleb. What are you doing these days? Open your heart.
I'm sitting there waiting for these cool fronts to get cooler. That's
Dude, when is it going to start? When is it going to start getting cool?
Man, you said it was fall about 3 weeks ago.
I did not. I said it was 66 degrees in the morning, and it was. That is called accuracy, Scott Knoll.
The calendar
The
calendar said it's fall.
The calendar says it's fall, but everybody doing good? Go around the horn here. Scott's nodding his head. Dean, you're happy?
Good as it's gonna get.
I was sweating today, but other than that, I was good.
Yeah. The funny part is, I met with Grundens yesterday. I get a sneak peek at all their new stuff, and they have a bib suit that's pretty insulated, good and warm. And the guy, the rep I was talking to is from Missouri. And he says, "Oh, you don't really want that. That's for where it gets cold at." I was like, "Man, come see us when it gets cold too. This place sucks both ways."
Oh, so we just got a comment here. Oh, that I didn't even mention that. You can join us live on YouTube every week, 3:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. We never miss a week, but we also post the podcast wherever you get your podcast, as I mentioned. But live comment here from David. David said, we need Bite Me stickers for the backs of our trucks. I will say I'll order some stickers. That's not going to be a problem at all. But I will say here in the next week or two, I like that. I got the hooded dry fits coming with the Bite Me logo. I like the last ones, but I think the hooded ones are a little more popular, a little more user-friendly when you're out on the boats. We got those coming. As well as I'm trying to figure out some new caps as well. So the Bite Me merch is on its way. We'll definitely let you know when it's available. So everybody good? Everybody happy? Let's start the podcast. I just felt bad. I was like, I never asked these fellas on the air how they're doing, and they're all doing great. All right, so here's a little discussion that Dean and I had. Little it wasn't a disagreement, differing opinions. So let me lay out what happened.
Isn't that kind of the same thing?
And it is. I was just being nice. So let me lay out what happened. I was out fishing with my wife. I guess it was Saturday. It was Saturday for sure. And we just kind of wanted to go out. So we just went out. I didn't look at the tides. I didn't look at the minors and the majors. I didn't look at the pressure, nothing. Let's just go out. So we're out fishing, and we make this long drift along this one area that has some rocks underneath it, rocks on the edge and stuff. I'm thinking there might be some trout there. Long drift, see a little bait. I'm like, all right, this is promising. Nothing. So that's a good half hour, 45-minute drift. We come back. I said, it still looks good. I'm going to make this drift again. Start drifting. About halfway through the drift, bam, she catches a trout. Next couple of casts, 3 or 4 casts, bam, another couple of trout. Drift a little more, bam, another trout. Make another drift, and for about the next half hour, we were catching trout on that. So it was nothing, and then all of a sudden started catching trout. Everything looked the same with bait. And I'm going to start with Scott on this because I think Scott's on my side, so I'm trying to reinforce my allies here. When we started catching those trout, I told my wife, I said, I bet you a minor or a major is happening right now. And keep in mind, I had no idea. I was uncompromised, if you will, uncontaminated. Of course, I'm usually contaminated anyway. So we fish, kind of dies down, move on. We get back to the dock. I go over to Dean's house. We're having a drink. I said, when was a minor or major today? I looked at my clock when we started catching trout, and it was 10:45. And Dean goes, well, 10:30 to 12:30. I went, aha. See, it is real. I didn't have any idea that that's what was happening, but when I went back and checked, lo and behold, was it a minor or a major? Didn't matter, but it was one. I think it was a minor.
It was the major.
It was the major. Started exactly when we started catching fish, Scott. That cannot be a coincidence.
All things being equal, yeah, maybe it makes a difference. But I've seen it go exact opposite so many times, and I don't even look at it, to be honest. And I just don't pay attention to it. The only time I really do pay attention to it, oddly enough, is when I'm deer hunting, because it seems like on deer hunting it does seem to make a little bit of a difference. But on fishing, there's so many other factors. You know, wind, tide. I'd like to know what the tide was doing right then. You know, was it a good incoming, outgoing?
It was standing high.
Yeah, it was high. Yeah.
On an extreme 2 feet above normal high tide.
Yeah, we had that around here. Yeah, I'm more along Dean's line on that. It works. There's times I've seen it work, and it's by the clock. But I've seen so many times when I'm like, I've got guys on the boat that pay attention to it, and they're like, yeah, we're coming into a major, and it goes absolutely freaking dead. I mean, you know, I don't.
Well, I'm done with you then. I'm done with you then, Caleb. He was no help. He was no.
I'm with both of them. If
screw you too. Who's my ally here?
If a major and a minor are good for anything, it's like maybe boosting your confidence because everything else is looking like hell.
But that's my point. I had no idea. I just guessed as we were catching them.
I've been out there before too, where they turned on and off with it. But
so what was it yesterday?
What do you mean? What was it yesterday?
What was the major yesterday or minor?
I didn't look yesterday. Yeah.
I'll tell you. I mean, that tells you how much I pay attention. I don't even know where to go to look for it.
I'll tell you. So I keep the Salooner Clock app on my phone for entertainment value. And like Caleb said, it can be a confidence booster. It can be, hey, we got something to look forward to.
It can be guide talk.
It can be guide talk.
In about charts. So major yesterday was like 12:30 to 2:30. So it follows the moon. I mean, it is a distinct pattern. It follows the major is going to be 45 minutes later tomorrow than it is today. But we were also talking about the minors mixed in there, that the minor can be better than the major. And so like both of my compadres over here had just said, there are a lot of variables involved. And so here's the deal, man. You could be drifting across a flat in the middle of the major or the minor or the sergeant major or whatever the hell you want to call it.
The colonel.
And you can hit a school of reds. Boom, boom, boom. Oh my God, look, we're geniuses. This is absolutely correct. And then you could miss that school of reds by 50 yards. And you could never know they're there. Happens all the time. And then you're like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever thought of. You know, how does this make any sense? There is a rhythm to nature. There is a rhythm to the moon and the stars that go with it. But how it directly affects you, there's a lot of in between on that. So for the entertainment value, I love to look at it at the end of the day and see how it applied. And it is beyond random and arbitrary on the actual results.
But what you don't know, go ahead, Caleb.
We need to come up with like a Caleb's bullshit section or something.
Bullshit meter.
Because I agree with everything Dean said there at the end of his statement. However, I really would like to see Dean sit down and go, you know what I'd like to do? I'm going to look at the major and minor today and see how it looked back on the day as we were fishing. That crap. No, he doesn't. There's no way. Now he probably knows it didn't line up. Maybe he saw the moon rising and saw the moon overhead. He didn't go home and check and be like, man, I enjoyed it.
I come in, I break out my logbook, I sit down with a glass of brandy and a cigar and contemplate the day
and a fedora.
Reflect.
And a fedora.
As I'm reflecting on the day.
Yeah, a pipe. You got a pipe.
You don't even have to sniff real hard to smell the bullshit. Now.
He's got his pipe and a fedora, brandy.
I keep a very detailed account of my fishing exploits.
And look, go ahead.
No, you don't.
That's the end.
Yesterday, that's why I was asking about yesterday. About 3:30, 4 o'clock, it turned on.
Here we go. I'm on it.
That was not the minor or the major.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
It went off. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, there was no bait. I was on the beachfront. There was nothing happening. It was dead. Absolutely.
When did it happen?
About 3 o'clock.
Yeah. About 3 o'clock.
About 3 o'clock, the bait started moving and the fish started moving around.
Yeah. No, that doesn't work at all. No.
In
fact, I don't even believe you that it happened. It doesn't work.
And that was in the middle of the dead zone.
Yep.
Okay, so here, wait a minute. Okay, I just looked at the chart, and this is what that reminds me of that conversation. So on the Salooner chart, it actually has a little explanation how to use this chart if you read the fine print. And so it has the major and the minors, and then it also has the tide, these little bars that indicate the tide. So if you have these blue bars that align with the major and the minor, which indicates a strong moving tide that coincides with that, then that's when they put like 5 stars on here or 4 stars or however. Today is 2 stars. But yes, if those tides, if the flow, if the current coincides with the major and the minor, then I can get with that. But who cares when the major and the minor is if the tide is flowing? Because to me, the current overrides the moon.
Well, no, I don't disagree. And as you guys know, I'm not like, ooh, the majors now, that's when I'm going to go fishing. We're going to fish anyway. All I'm saying is it was quite the coincidence because it was the exact same place, the exact same looking bait, the exact same structure.
The key word is coincidence.
I said it was quite the coincidence, as in it wasn't a coincidence. It didn't seem like a coincidence. It was like I said, I'm not a slave to it, but I went, huh. And how many, and you said like you miss them by 50 yards. How do you know that you haven't gone over reds that weren't biting?
As anglers, we're always trying to gather that edge, that information. And then the reality is you go out there and you start throwing something in the water and shaking it around and seeing what happens. To me, it is more interesting to look backwards at the Salooner table and see what coincidence there was that day. If it was, I find it to be quite random. But just like I said, there's a lot of water out there. And plus, when you got that big high tide, there's a lot of real estate for those fish to spread out on. If you hit them, you're a genius. If you miss them, then, we just got a different conclusion.
Then you suck.
Okay.
I went through about a 2 or 3 year period doing what Dean's talking about because I ran around with Everett Johnson with Texas Saltwater Fishing Magazine. And he is a hardcore. He's in your corner, John. Everett is hardcore believer in that. He'll go back to the boat and fix a sandwich.
He called himself Moonchild.
Yeah, when there's no major or minor, he will absolutely walk back to the boat. He'll just quit fishing. He'll walk back to the boat.
Well, that's no
down,
fun.
Fix a sandwich, do all this, and he's looking at his watch. He's waiting for the minor or the major to come along before he'll go back out there.
Yeah.
I see that happen in Mansfield regularly. Almost every time me and Wayne go fishing, it'll turn off at the end of one and turn on at the beginning of the other. But I think for some reason, maybe it relies on the estuary. You know what doesn't rely on the estuary? barometric pressure. That's always bullshit. If Scott would have watched the Angler U webinar from last week, he would have had a dude in the southern hemisphere talking about how barometric pressure shut down the fishing. So we proved that the Earth may or may not be round, but barometers suck.
I thought you were a flat earther.
I'm the biggest flat earther you've ever met.
Okay, last thing on this. Scott, you do say that you kind of subscribe to when the cows are eating theory. And when the cows are eating, that might be a major or minor that's happening.
Or they might be hungry or not.
But how does it coincide? But how does it coincide with fishing?
But there are times when the birds start moving more, the deer start moving more, the animals start moving more. It doesn't always coincide with the major and minor. I've watched it. I've looked back at it. Like I said, I did 2 or 3 years of that when I was running around with Everett fishing a lot. And I'd go out and fish, or I'd go out and hunt, and I'd look back at it, and it seemed like it affected the hunting more than it did the fishing. I don't know why that would be, but I mean, there's no tides in the deer woods, so I guess maybe that. I don't know, but there was definitely differences in the way the birds act and the way that the animals act around a major and a minor. I mean, the moon's got a big influence on the Earth.
Well, big time. And I'm not trying to like all of a sudden become that guy, like you say, Everett, because I've always gone kind of wondered. I've basically wondered about it, not hardcore one way or the other. All I'm saying is that day was kind of wild because it was, and then when the minor or major, stopped, the fishing stopped. I was like, well, I'll be damned. And I had no idea. I had no idea when it was.
One thing I can tell you about the animals and the moon and such, we have 17 cameras on the ranch, and I look at those things every day. And I've never really compared it to the Solunar table on how that rhythm works, but from new moon to full moon and bright skies and dark skies, there are times when those animals are moving in the middle of the day and you see nothing on the camera. And to have 17 cameras scattered out across that place, it gives you a very good indication of what's moving. It's not just a random sample of one corner of one feeder, and it's on corn feeders, it's on protein feeders, it's on trails. They are scattered everywhere. And on the dark moon versus the full moon, there is a lot of rhythm that changes their feeding patterns. And, you can see those, you can't see the fish. So, maybe the fish are just more mysterious because they are under the water. We need to put some cameras under the water.
What if I told you that the moon is fake and it's just a CGI prop from NASA?
Yeah. Well, birds aren't real, right?
Yeah. Birds aren't real either.
Yeah. I remember that.
All right. So it was just interesting to me. And I would be interested to see if Dean starts to keep a journal like he did the other one with all his deer animals and the 17 cameras.
I'm going to have to get a pencil and a piece of paper first
to start figuring it out. Like, oh, okay, it does jibe with everything. But I kind of skipped over what you guys been doing. Yeah, I know Dean had a trip to Houston for a couple of days, but you got trips coming up. Scott, you were out, you said yesterday. What's been happening?
Well, for me, it was dead yesterday. I mean, just no bait, no nothing. All the people I talked to up and down the beachfront, nobody's really doing much. My guys had to leave, and no sooner did they have to leave than one of my buddies out there calls me up and says, "Hey, man, they're going off. It's crazy." It was about 4:30, 5 o'clock.
So tell us about your thunderstorm adventure.
Yeah, had you surrounded.
That was fun. Y'all were texting all about it, and I drove from Matagorda to Rockport and back, and I'm just watching it. I'm like, "Oh, Scott's over there. Scott's over there."
Dude, got up in the morning, was doing my thing, getting ready, and I always check the weather and check the radar and check all that. The winds were real light. Everything was good. We had one string of thunder showers that was from offshore about 10 miles up towards Seadrift, right between me and Dean. And it was all moving straight inland. And I was like, all right, that's cool. I met my guys. Everything's all good. That big storm you see over there, it's moving inland. We're good. We're gonna run north of the jetties and avoid it. And when it goes by, then we run south. That damn thing got to the beach and hung a right and chased me all the way damn near to Matagorda. And finally, we just said, it kept looking like it was going to go inland, and it wouldn't. It just kept following me. And so finally, I said, all right, everybody got rain jackets. I told them to bring them because there was scattered shower chances. Yep. So we put the rain jackets on, spun around, and just went back into it.
We're going in. We're going
the hell
in.
with it. Because one of my buddies called me from the other side of it. He had done the same thing. He had been running from it, and he calls me and goes, hey, man, it's gorgeous on the backside of this thing. It's flat. It's really pretty.
Yeah. And that thing turned into like a 10-mile wall of storm. When you sent that picture, I looked at the radar and I was like, there was no chance of turning back without getting hit.
And it had that shelf cloud on the front end of it. That's why I kept watching. It had that funky looking shelf cloud. I was like, man, that's got a lot of wind in it. I've been through this. I have read this story.
Yeah.
And so luckily that part moved inland. It was over the bay. It wasn't on the beachfront. Most of what was on the beach was just a wall of gray that you could not see through. I mean,
it was hard rain.
It was pretty good rain. But then when it was over, it went glass. It was absolutely beautiful out there.
I bet those guys were like, what the hell are we doing out here?
They were fine.
Now counter that with what I was doing with Jan. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good day. It's a Sunday morning. I said, let's just go explore. I was going to go way back in some areas that I really hadn't been in, and full tank of gas. I said, let's just go. And we pull out of the marina, and there's like this one cloud, pretty intimidating looking cloud, but it was just one shower. And she's like, nope. Like, not gonna happen. And I said, well, I think it's going this way, but we're going that way. I think we're just gonna be able to avoid it. And then I made my mistake. I said, the only worry is if it kind of builds from the back, a little bit, which happens. Then she goes, nope. I was like, damn it.
Did she explain to you that the sports guy and the weatherman are always two different people, no matter what?
And I texted Dean. I said, the frustrating thing, I said, all right, let's go back to the marina. Let's just sit there for a little bit. Let's let it pass. I promise you it's not, it's going to be fine. And it just hovered. Like, I don't know if y'all noticed that Sunday, like it just like the wind died and it was just like there. And so we're sitting there 45 minutes and I said, well, it's not moving. Nope. I was like, damn it. So much fun, my exploratory trip there.
I was already kicking around calling Caleb and saying, okay, tell me about the Matagorda jetties and how you get in and out of those now, because it changes down there. I hadn't been in and out of there in years. I was like, I may need to think about going to the Matagorda jetties and just coming on in, go hang out there for a little bit.
I think you'd been better off running the beachfront than crossing West Matagorda Bay, though.
Yeah, probably.
In the beachfront, the waves are in one direction. West Matagorda,
they're bouncing around everywhere. So while we're on what we were talking about, wasn't on the rundown, but it just got me thinking. I was kind of like, I sent you guys that picture, and one of our listeners sent me a picture just this afternoon. I was on the radio, and he goes, hey man, look at this. I caught a 15-inch croaker. And I'm not trying to criticize him, because good for him. That's a nice croaker. But I sent it to you guys. It kind of made me sad. It kind of made me sad because I think I said something along the lines of, things that you wish some of the younger generation could experience, just once. Scott, I'm going to start with you here, because 15-inch croaker during the croaker run, as we used to call it, that was like middle. That was like a mid-level type croaker.
Yeah, that was kind of normal. I mean, that's what we were shooting for, 15 to 18-inch croaker. I mean, we'd go out Texas City Dike on the fall croaker run, man. Go out there and sit all night, catch all you want, have a big old fish fry. But people don't believe it that we used to catch them on gold spoons all the time.
Yep. And
they hit just like redfish. And we catch big ones, 2, 3, 4 pounds. Wasn't that unusual. Good luck finding them today. I've had one in probably the last, 5, 6 years. I've had one that was over 12, 13 inches.
Yeah. I had one. I think I talked about it on the podcast about 2 or 3 years ago now. That was probably pushing 20 inches. And I was like, holy moly, I haven't seen one of these in a long time. But it did get me thinking, like, it's Caleb, you're younger, but you're not young. You know, things that you wish the younger generation could experience, you know, that is probably not going to happen anymore unless some drastic things change. That Croker run, I feel like if someone could experience it, like you get time, you know, time warped or whatever, you know, time travel to one of those, they'd be like, damn, we need to protect these Croker a little better. You know what I mean? Because it was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I've heard about it. I'm not old enough to know about it. I don't guess we weren't particularly looking for them. I'm too young to really have anything that I wish other people could experience. There was a time in East Matagorda Bay whenever in the fall everybody had a chance at a 5 to 7 pound trout under the birds, and that didn't really seem like and when I say a chance, I mean you had a pretty good chance. Since the freeze that went away, but I don't know, man. I just live my glory days every day, John.
You do. You know, you're special is what you are. But I didn't know what. Go ahead, Dean.
One that I have never delved into the science of to figure out where they went, but as a child, the blue crabs were everywhere. I mean, when you went to a pier, to a dock, blue crabs used to crawl on every pole. You could drift across the flats and you could dip crabs off of the grass beds with a dip net. I mean, they were everywhere. You could drop a chicken neck on a string anywhere in the water and go crabbing back in the day. And it has been, I don't know how many years since I have seen a blue crab on a piling, on a pole anywhere. Drifting the flats, I mean, we spend every single day drifting those grass beds. Rarely, as if never, see a blue crab anymore. Crab traps used to be scattered across the flats. Crabbers made a good living out there. They do not exist anymore. The crabs that they sell at the bait houses, the live crabs, are coming up in shrimp nets. Those are netted. There's just the demise of the blue crab would be very interesting to know how that happened, or, you know, where they went. But yes, as a child, the blue crabs were everywhere. And I mean, they're not there anymore.
I got one, and you know it too, John. Grass in East Matagorda Bay.
Yes.
That was a special bay back when there was grass in it. I'm sorry, I reverted right into my hey, fishing's as good as it ever been. Open boat tomorrow. I had to reel my wrong program. I had to reel myself back in. But yeah, grass in East Matagorda Bay was awesome, and I just don't feel like that's going to happen again. At least not like it was.
Yeah, I started fishing Matagorda. Well, as you know, mid to late '80s. With Patrick's dad, and it was unbelievable. And I'm sure both Scott and Caleb, Dean remember that too. We used to just, I mean, all through that grass. I mean, it was protected. Scott, the one I wanted to ask you about, and maybe this is just me because I haven't targeted them, I haven't come across them. But one thing that I've always that I thought of when I was texting you guys, I don't see as many sheephead as I used to. Is there a reason for that?
I see thousands of sheep.
Okay. Because I've never really targeted. Back in the day, we'd go down to Port Aransas or something with my dad, and they'd be all up in those little, grass flats and little everything.
They're all over. I mean, I get sheepshead everywhere. Sheepshead and little puppy drum.
You can go to those pilings on that long bridge that you run past every day down here, and
there's a bunch in there.
Oh yeah, they nibble on the barnacles and such on the poles.
Yeah, I thought about that, like that it was probably just me. But does anything strike you wish people could experience, Scott?
Gulf trout.
Yeah.
I mean, me and my dad used to walk out on the North Jetty at Galveston, walk out to the boat cut, and every shrimp you threw in there, you caught a really nice Gulf trout. 2, 3, 4 pound Gulf trout. And for those who don't know, no, it's not a sand trout. It looks like a speckled trout without spots. Got the teeth, got everything. Looks exactly like one that just missed the printer. And they were literally everywhere. And they were at the near shore. They were at the near shore rigs. They were all over the place. You go out to the near shore rigs and drop down like you're fishing for snapper, and you'd catch those Gulf trout. There was a lot of them.
And so, you know what's interesting about this conversation?
Mhm.
Now that I sit here and think, as these guys talk, I think occasionally, how have we had the demise of so many species while others continue to thrive? Why isn't it across the board? I mean, I know that, of course, speckled trout aren't what they used to be. Redfish are stocked by the millions to sustain the redfish that we have. But, you know, why have certain species gone almost extinct or non-existent or very rare? I mean, you don't want to get that dramatic, while others continue to adapt. I don't know. Do they adapt? Why do they continue to thrive?
Well, I mean, the croaker is real easy.
Yeah.
You know, they're putting all of them on bait hooks. The Gulf trout's always been a mystery to me, you know, how that happened. But I mean, if you look way back in the history of things, there was stripers in Galveston Bay. I mean, there was a commercial striper fishery in Galveston Bay in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Same with snook.
Mhm.
You know, there was tons of snook. There was a commercial fishery for it. So things ebb and flow, I guess.
Mhm.
But the other one for me is kingfish. I mean, yeah, we catch some kingfish now, but it's not the numbers that we used to. I mean, if you dropped a ribbon fish off of any of the rigs anywhere close to the shore, further out, wherever, you were catching kingfish.
Mhm.
And from what I gather, talking to a bunch of different people, you catch them, but not the numbers that we used to. That and big trout.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
working on that.
I think it's coming back. I think the big trout are coming back. I really
Man,
do.
I tell y'all something. One of the weirdest things that I have seen in many, many years. I saw last week. Then we put the kayaks on the boat and we took them out, and we were in an area as we were paddling along. Came across a super deep hole. I stuck my paddle down, could barely reach the bottom. It was like 7 or 8 feet hole in the middle of some flats, and it kind of looked like a washout behind an island where some currents or wind or storm may have washed out this deep hole, and somehow it kept it there. And so as we were slowly making our way through there, big gar started rolling on the surface, and I saw one and I was like, man, that was weird. I really wasn't sure. So I sat there, we waited. I actually passed through there after I saw 2 or 3, and I was like, I said, this needs more investigation. So we doubled back. It was Brett Thompson was with me, and as we went through there, we doubled back and we sat there for about 30 minutes or so, and just constantly 3 or 4 at a time, gar that were probably 3 feet long were just coming up and rolling on the surface, aggressively hitting on the surface. And I don't remember the last time I saw a gar anywhere in Redfish Bay, and there was just a giant pile of them. Just one of those interesting, weird things that if you hang around long enough, you never know what you'll run into.
You want to see some gar? You get to Sabine. they're all over that place.
So are they?
We got them over here.
Yeah.
Are channels and cuts, or you see them on the flats of the open bay?
Usually at a cut into a drain, around a cut into a drain is where I always saw them. But it could be just coincidence.
Yeah,
I wanted to go out there with I wanted to go out there with some dead shrimp and catch one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I was throwing at them with soft plastic, trying to get one. But
they'll smoke a rattle trap.
Will they?
Oh yeah. Rattle traps and crankbaits, a gar will annihilate that thing.
Yeah. Oh well.
You get over wanting to catch them real fast, Dean.
Yeah. And then they're gone. They're absolutely gone. All right. So since we're on the kick of a little nostalgia and historical stuff, how about I give you guys this quiz real quick? I was going to save it for next week. But let's see how well you know our bays. If I were a betting man, I don't know who I would go on with this one. Not Caleb, but either. Tell me if you know what this is, which bay this is. All right. Rene Robert Cavelier LaSalle established Fort St. Louis in 1685. Most colonists later died, and then it grew into a major German immigrant port by the 1850s. It was Texas' second largest port before being destroyed by hurricane.
Ding,
All right,
ding, ding,
Scott,
ding, ding.
Scott was first.
LaSalle came in through Pascavallo. They set up a fort up in Garcitas Creek, and they established Indianola.
Indianola is the correct answer. Matagorda Bay, well, actual West Matagorda, I guess is what we call it now. But Indianola.
I did know that one. I worked on a ranch on the Garcitas. I didn't know we were ding ding dinging. I was trying to be polite and not interrupt you.
Come on, I see. This is why you guys are on this podcast. I got confidence in you. All right, here's one. This pass was a historic deepwater passage. LaSalle's expedition entered the region here for European exploration.
I already got it.
No, this is another one. Laid out in 1909, it became a summer resort terminus by the 1910s with fig orchards, a pleasure pavilion, hotel, ice plant, and railroad access before 1919. What is it?
Port Aransas.
Oh,
No.
Let me keep going. The ship channel and jetties later revived the town as a fishing and shrimping hub. Major hurricanes, especially Carla in 1961, repeatedly destroyed, then prompted the rebuilding of the community. You were close. Port O'Connor.
Well, that's what I said first. Pascavallo.
He said
I've already said,
But that was the Matagorda answer. That was the Matagorda. This one is Port O'Connor.
Same answer, different question.
Same answer, different.
Okay. Well, then you threw me when you said that wasn't it. So.
Oh. Well, no, because you said Port Aransas.
Well, I said Pascavallo when I answered the first question.
All right.
Well,
all right.
Okay, go ahead. Never mind.
What's wild is the stories where the Indians raided all the way down to that camp.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like from Oklahoma.
If you ever want to really be intrigued, the story of LaSalle, where he went up to Garcitas Creek and then they shipwrecked their boat, and then those guys actually assimilated with the local Indians there and set up camp, and it became a little community. And the story of how they salvaged all the lumber from the boat and built little houses is a pretty interesting story.
The ranch I worked on over there, my job was to train horses. So the best thing you can do on a young horse is just go out and put miles on him. And almost daily, I would ride and look at Garcitas Creek and go, what kind of dumbass world explorer sells his big old wood boat up this thing? I don't understand what's going on.
See, you guys are good. These are all stories you can tell if the fishing's not good. All right. September 8th, 1863, a well-executed Confederate defense was made here, stopping a major Union amphibious expedition. Richard Dick Dowling and roughly 46 men delivered highly accurate artillery fire that disabled 2 Union gunboats, captured the gunboat Clifton and about 200 prisoners. Where?
Sabine Pass.
Damn, that's it. I've been to that. There's still a little memorial or whatever statue or something there. That was one I would have gotten.
Next time we need little whiteboards, we can write the answer and hold it up.
See, you guys are validating why you're on this podcast.
After they got their butts kicked, they went all the way down to Port Isabel and came in there and then fought their way all the way up.
Yeah, they did. All right. This modern bay formed after the last ice age as sea levels rose. Paleo-Indian artifacts and long-term occupation by tribes such as the Akokisha and the Karankawa show people used the bay for at least several thousand years. Cabeza de Vaca in 1528 had a shipwreck here, and later Spanish and French mapping campaigns established early European awareness of the bay.
I'll let someone. Okay.
Go ahead.
We'll do it. Galveston.
That is Galveston.
I didn't know that one.
That is Galveston. How about that? Scott gets the gold star today, but all three of you guys.
The fishing on Scott's boat must suck a lot. To
the guys are on the front of the boat. You think he's got any newer stories? Can he freshen these up a little bit? Oh, see there, I was. This is why I piddle around on the internet all the time for fishing topics. All right, speaking of which, let's get to one. This is one that was sent to Scott. The gist of it is: do falling tides affect bait in passes like they do in drains? All right, here's the question. Live an hour and a half. I'm shortening it. North of Austin. He gave us a lot of compliments, specifically Scott. We don't get to the coast very often. We'd like to. We're headed down in a couple of weeks for a 4-day weekend. We were there a few weeks ago surf fishing and saw massive amounts of mullet, but little luck catching game fish. We like the San Luis Pass area and we'll be going there in 2 weeks. While we are there, the tides will be falling all morning and coming in the afternoon for the afternoon. Do the falling tides pull bait out through the pass like the drains do in the bay, or like they do in the drains, I guess is what he was saying. Trying to figure out the best way to set up for the tides. We'll be using cut bait and lures. Thank you for your help. Who wants to hop in on this? Do the
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely, absolutely, it does.
Mm-hmm.
When we were on those bull reds, when the last time the surf was flat and I get out there, as I was coming down the creek, I could see all the shrimp in it, and I told my guys, whenever this tide turns around, it's going to be chaos. But for now, they're going to be in here, and that's how it worked. They hung out, and then whenever the tide moved, they moved with them. Mm-hmm. That's the inside of the jetties in Port O'Connor, the outside of the jetties in Port O'Connor. Matagorda, I don't mess with those jetties, so I can't talk about how great they are. But I mean that's happening in Port O'Connor almost every day.
I know Scott's going to say something on this, but Dean, I'm wondering, with the jetties that we have down there, is it identical?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. I mean, we got those. There's all of the flats that feel those big pulses of tide behind the pass come alive with that current. I mean, and even all the way to terminal flats, all the way to the intercoastal side of the bay, that channel is a straight line. I mean, when you're on terminal flats, if you look at the horizon, you could actually see the Gulf. It is a straight line. So as that current comes in, especially, it crashes right into those chain of islands, whether it's Hog Island, the islands around the terminal flats, those little chains, and those little chain of islands are actually man-made. There was a channel that kind of it's perpendicular to the current, so it's got all these little channels between them. And on an incoming tide, I mean, that's just a classic go-to spot. And even the old roadbed that's out there in the middle on a calm day when the wind isn't blowing, when the tide is flowing, I mean, you can see the current flowing across those rocks as far as that is from the pass. I mean, and really, it's less than 5 miles from there to the pass. It's a very narrow strip of the bay here. So from one side to the other is not that far. But yes, the current that flows in and out of that pass, it stirs up the food chain going both directions.
You got anything to add, Scott?
Yeah. Incoming fish the backside, outgoing fish the surf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the basics of it. He said somebody saw a bunch of mullet, massive amounts of mullet. That can be good and bad. I mean, you can have too much bait sometimes, and they don't, the fish aren't going to be chasing anything. You can also have too big a mullet. I've been around that pass my whole life, and there's times when the mullet migration out of there is nothing but 1.5 foot long mullet.
Yeah,
and nothing really eating those. You want if you start seeing the small little finger mullet getting swept out, get out there. That's the time to be there. And it's not just mullet. It's all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What? Camille's throwing in, do not wade in the pass. Yeah, there's signs all over the place. Don't wade in the pass and don't get in the water in the pass. It's a mecca for drownings.
Yeah,
I mean, it really has been over the years. We would fish it on the very backside where it flattens out and goes into all the sandbars and all that. You can get stuck real quick out there in a boat, real quick.
yeah.
But we would get on those sandbars and stand ankle deep and throw off into 4, 5, 6 feet of water, throwing mirror lures and just letting it drift with the current. That's where I hooked my first tarpon ever, was back behind San Luis Pass on incoming tide like that. But on the outgoing, we would go out and, depending on which way the wind was kicking, usually go on the Freeport side, the south side of the pass, and go down just a little ways and fish first, second gut. So he said he's got outgoing in the mornings. I'd go do that in the morning and then go fish the backside in the afternoon. I don't know if he's got a boat or not. Didn't say.
By the way, we might have a trip. Y'all look at your Aprils. I was texting with Mark. Actually, I called him. I was texting with Mark. He said that the tarpon are stupid in April. So we might be going down there. I don't know exactly why. Is that true, by the way? Tarpon are stupid in April down in Florida.
Yeah, if Mark says it, I'm going to have to believe it.
Yeah.
Y'all are not going to want to be on the boat with me if there could be a snook under that dock and there's some tarpon out there and y'all want to go get them tarpon.
Oh, because you're going to stay on the snook?
I added 10 years to Mark's life because he'd see some tarpon roll over there and, let's go get them. Like, nope, we're staying right here on this dock, Mark. I can catch a tarpon in Texas, Mark. We're going over to catch a big old snook.
Yeah, well, we'll work on that, but start looking at your April calendars. And Dean got a question too. So we had a lot of interaction this week about transitioning to kayak from kayak to boat fishing, and that's one we haven't really gotten. I know it piqued your interest, Dean.
Well, the question came up on the Facebook page, and it was somebody who had been kayaking got a boat but hasn't been as successful in his boat as he was in his kayak. Question: what adjustments do you make when transitioning from kayak fishing to boat fishing?
Good question.
He says he thinks the boat is spooking off fish, and asked if I use the boat as a mothership. So lately, yes, I have been putting the kayaks on the boat and taking them places just to be a little more adventurous and get away from some of the areas that just really get beat up a lot. They get a lot of traffic. But you will definitely, the kayak is ultra stealth mode. I mean, I see more fish creeping around in the kayak than I ever saw wading, and especially drifting. It's just silent, it's mobile, and it's quick mobile. I mean, you can see something off in the distance and you can get there in a very short time, absolutely silent. So last week, we took the kayaks out, put them in. I mean, I spotted redfish and tails. I spotted fish 50, 60 yards away, made it over there to them while they're still tailing, drop a fly in there, catch them. You can move around, set up in perfect position for the wind to make an easy cast where you're not struggling to make a difficult cast. It just, when I was guiding kayak trips, I always told people to be patient, get in position for one perfect cast, because they're going to keep doing that until you mess it up. But to the subject of transitioning to the boat, I still get my boat very close to the same areas that I kayak fish. It's not exactly the same. It's not precise. There's still so many nooks and crannies you can explore. Scott on his Poland skiff, though, is going to be very close to getting to, you can push through little tiny cuts and you can do things that a lot of kayaks can do that you're not going to do in a full-size skiff. But the trick, the best advice I would give to him would be to be patient, to really go as slow as possible, to slow it down and try to be as stealthy as possible in the skiff and still try to get to those same areas. But that's when the tide is critical. That's why I'm always analyzing the tide, because I want to get my big boat in the shallowest water I can find, to relate it to the same places that I kayak fished.
And I want to get to Scott, but that was exactly what I was going to ask you about, Caleb, because you're not a big kayaker, but you are incredibly, I'm going to give you a compliment here. You're incredibly good and stealthy on big boats, on big boats. Like, how do you do it for our listener?
Yeah, we were laughing the other day because the places that I bought my polling skiff to put in had already been there in my 25-foot Outlaw.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's a lot of patience when you're moving around. Now, the ability to recognize where the deepest part of that little pond is, or where the little channel is, that it might be 3 or 4 inches deeper, that's pretty darn key to it too. But I mean, the only thing I did different than that big boat is I just accepted I was going to move it slower and not make a bunch of noise and disturb everything doing it that way, right?
Yeah. And when you move your boat, once you see fish, be consistently slow.
Yeah,
Be consistently slow with your big boat. Don't get in a hurry.
Yeah, well, and another key part is if you are going off into little side waters and little small ponds, know what the wind is, and if you're going to be fighting the wind to do it, you're probably wasting your time. There'd be complete ponds I wouldn't go in just because I was going to have like a 10-mile-an-hour headwind, just enough to make a pop, 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 pop on the front of my boat. And if you're in water that shallow, those things, I mean, sometimes fish don't care, but a lot of the times you can mess up the fishing.
Another interesting thing that I've heard Caleb say is that he won't touch his trolling motor whenever
or keep it very, very slow, or keep it very, very. That's what I do.
I mean, once you're there, don't turn that motor on. Don't, and be careful, like bumping the boat and stomping around in the boat, and then dropping hatches or things that make a noise. But that's another thing. If you're on those fish, don't turn that troll motor on while you're in the vicinity of those fish. They feel that.
Well, and in the same sense, sometimes you're in a place where you have to have it on, and I'm going to come in at a speed, and I'm going to try not to turn and wiggle and move. I'm going to try to keep whatever I got going on pretty consistent down where Dean's at, and even further south into Baffin and down towards Mansfield. Those fish can be incredibly spooky into a trolling motor, and I can't say they always give you signs that you've spooked them. Sometimes they just won't eat. Sometimes they're running from you or whatever. But it seems like the shallower and the clearer the water, the more you have to, be as minimal as you can with your trolling motor, at least.
And that's perfect transition from one extreme to the other to Scott with the poling skiff.
Poling, I tell people all the time, it's just like a kayak with a motor on the back. I go anywhere that a kayak goes, and then some. Because I've got the motor, I can disappear and get way further away than they want to paddle from the from the launch.
Yeah,
I can do the same things that kayaks do, floating around shallow, being quiet, but I can also explore a lot more. And I can have somebody on the front end. When I was doing the guiding on the kayaks, the most frustrating thing to me was I could see the fish, I could find the fish. I know Dean's experienced it. We've talked about it. Then you turn around and look to show your customers, and they ain't around. They're nowhere to be found. You told them, hey, stick with me. We're going to go check this area over here. We've got a bunch of fish in it. And then you look back, and it's herding cats, man. They've disappeared on you. When I got them on the bow of the boat, it's just like guiding kayaks, except I got control of where they go.
Well, yeah. The other thing that I've always had a hard time, and maybe you guys have the secret sauce, the answer to this. I've always had a hard time managing, more so in Matagorda, I guess, because I'm dealing with bigger waves more consistently. Is when you're drifting, that slap sometimes on the bottom of your boat, Caleb. I put like a drift sock on the front to kind of turn the boat so it doesn't slap it. I've tried a little bit of everything, but to me, it's just sometimes been unavoidable, and you're just like, well, I guess it's just going to be making that slapping noise the whole time.
It's a consequence of hole design. Is the cat holes are the worst. The V bottoms are the best. I've sat and pondered because, man, I've spent hundreds of hours listening to that dang slap.
Yeah,
and I've pondered like getting a piece of pipe with like a piece of outdoor carpet on it where I can drop it off the front and knock the chop down coming into the tunnel. I've come up with all kinds of ideas that I've never actually used, but that Simmons boat of Daniels, they're thin, so they're light, but they're also hollow, and it's like a monkey banging on a drum underneath that tower all day long. And when the fishing isn't going particularly well, it is possibly the most annoying sound in the world.
It is so annoying. Is there like a magic sprinkle some dust or something? Because I've tried everything with that.
Just fish downwind all day long. Doesn't matter where the fish are at. Just go downwind. Could be better.
Yeah. All right. So before we get to what would Scott do, what would Caleb do, what would Dean do, I do want to get to one more topic here, since we're talking about being stealth and kayaking and all that. This was an question we got, or did I get this one? I forget. But anyway, how to break down a marsh. And the question is, with so many places to go in the marsh, and I can just visualize it myself. You know, some of those places that we go, you know, whether it's Matagorda or down south or whatever, you get into this marsh area, you run in, and then you see all these little fingers of different things going everywhere. And I think that's what he's asking about. I'll start with you again, Caleb, on this one, then I'll go to Dean, because I'm like, all right, which way now? Because you're in there, you're back, and then it just starts going in every direction. How do you read that?
You know, it'd be easier to talk about how to break down in a marsh.
Not break down a marsh. Break down in a marsh.
Yeah. Man, you know, it's a time of the year thing for me personally. It's a tide thing for me personally. If it's, you know, we're getting up where it's starting to cool off. We're starting to get some big tides pushing back in there. A lot, and doesn't account for every lake on the coast, but a lot of them get hot and the fish kind of move out of them, move to deeper water and hang out in the summertime. And now the water temp in the Colorado River was 81 degrees on Friday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to cool off some, starting to get those big tides. The water, I think the water was probably 3 or 4 inches over the docks at Matagorda Saturday. So we got some big tides coming in. I think they'll start climbing back up in there. So that being said, I'm probably going to look, you know, in the front of the marsh complexes first if I go in there, with the idea of they climbed up in there with some cooler water and some tide. As the fall goes on, when we start getting the pushes and pulls and the bait and stuff, and those fish are very likely to start climbing on back where a lot of the grass and a lot of the bait, I guess the undisturbed bait, I don't know how you say it, but they just keep moving on back. So my first thing is just, you know, time of year and what makes sense. Then you know, if you're not looking at that, then go in and where's the bait at? What is the read the water like that. I'll move around. I'll look for pushes. I'll look for mud spots. I'll look for bait. But a lot of it is just where should they be? I start there, and then if I can find any clues, I'll move one way or the other.
Yeah, Dean, that's what I was going to do on Sunday before I heard nope. When she saw a cloud, I was just going to go back in some of those areas and just explore. And that's my answer, you know, because I don't have the experience back there. But when you see all these marshes, let's say you're back in I don't know, pick a marsh, you know, San Jose or South Bay or whatever. How do you read this looks best?
Man, I mean, if you're dodging those storms, I always try to put a safety net at my back instead of in my face. Scott's little story from the beginning was just unfortunate because he got cut off from his escape route. But looking at, ours is so different. The flats are different than the marsh. I mean, the big expansive grass beds are just, you're going to end up in a lot more wide open spaces than little nooks and crannies and corners, especially in the skiff. I mean, if you're in the big boat, you're just not going to have places to tuck into and spend a lot of productive time. I mean, you'll go up in there and you'll spend a short amount of time there, but you're not going to, you know, sit there and work it over for a while like you will in marshy top areas with passes that lead to back lakes and stuff like that.
I kind of laughed when you went to Dean there. I was like, Dean hadn't been in a marsh since he's been with me kayaking in some of the tournaments.
Yeah, it's just it changes so dramatically from where Scott is to where I am. And then, you know, north to Caleb, it's still very similar, but it does make a big change of marsh-like to true flats.
The way I'd say that, you know, he's talking about wanting to break down a marsh. First off, Google Earth, number one. You know, go to Google Earth, look it over. A lot of those little bitty ditches that you see in the marsh, I mean, some of the tiniest little ditches when I was kayaking a lot, that led me to some of the best fishing ever. Yeah, I'd be driving along and around Galveston, see some little roadside ditch that had a little cut off of it. Go get on Google Earth. That was when Google Earth was really just first starting up.
Yeah.
And get on there and trace where that ditch went. And a lot of times it led to some lakes. And if there's a series of lakes, then I'm going in there. As far as being in the marsh and start breaking it down, you watch the tide flow, you see which of those openings has some good movement in it. One of the best ways that I ever found exploring totally new marshes. I've said it on here before. If you're push poling or if you're kayaking, reach down there in the mud and bang your paddle or bang your push pole at the mouth of one of those cuts. And if it's soft and squishy, bypass it.
Mhm.
If it's hard, it's got like a clay feeling bottom to it or hard sand, then you go into that one. That one's got flow. If it has a soft, that mushy mud and you get that stink comes up, then you want to pass that one.
Yeah.
There's, for whatever reason, there's no flow. You can look at them on the maps, and one looks exactly like another one, set up the same way, but one of them has zero flow in it. The other one has really good flow. Couldn't tell you why, but I can tell you what they look like.
Yeah. That's good stuff. What a good show, man. We learned some stuff today. And I'm actually looking at what's got to do, Caleb and Dean, just to be a troll. I'm trying to find when the minors and the majors are here because we got to know that.
Well, it's going to change over. And I mean, you're looking at midday and midnight right now, but
Yeah.
in 5 days, it's going to be back to morning and evening.
See, and you said you didn't look.
It is a consistent rhythm.
No, I know.
To be fair, I said he didn't look.
To be fair, what?
To be fair, I said he didn't look. I'll take up for Dean. Dean said he was always looking.
What are water temps? We had Jay told us it's down to 80 on Saturday. Water temps, is that going to change anything? I'll go ahead and start with Scott on this one. Anything you're going to do differently? Beachfront still a go?
It's all still good. There's bait all over the place. And I mean, well, I said I didn't see bait yesterday, but I mean, we saw a lot on the graphs, but the bait just wasn't coming up to the top, wasn't active. But there was bait balls just everywhere on the graph, certain particular areas. It was still 86, 87 degrees everywhere we went. Water temperature still way up there. So I don't see any chance of the tarpon moving out anytime real soon. Last year, November 2nd was the last time I saw tarpon. It may be that same thing again this year unless we get some kind of major front. Looking at the weather, I don't see one coming. Redfish have been awesome. And I took a couple polling trips this week, just absolutely hammered on them. Had good schools, little pods, singles, big tailing schools. It was fun. I caught a ton of black drum, little 3 or 4 or 5 pound black drum on soft plastics. I mean, just like redfish.
Yeah, it happens.
We were actually, the guy was actually sight casting black drum with just pitching to him and putting it right in front of them. And they were just smoking it. And it was not a major or a minor.
Dean, what's on your agenda? What are you looking at? You're going to catch a bunch of fish.
Back at it tomorrow after a couple of days off. But I mean, the tide is still 1.5 feet above.
It was over the docks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had concerns about pulling my boat out of the slip the day before I left because it was touching the ceiling and the water was starting to slap at the bottom. That was extreme high tide. And just for an example, I mean, it was at 2.7 on the scale. A normal high tide, a normal high tide where you can run all those sucks is at 1.7. So we were looking at easily 1 foot above an abnormally high tide. So it was kind of weird that these little low pressure and stuff created that. But now we're still at 2.0 and such and not really dropping out much than that. So, I mean, we got the chance of we had scattered showers, which are always good. Water temperatures cooling down. We're past the full moon, which is not my favorite. We'll see how that plays out. But I mean, starting tomorrow, I'm back at it for the next couple of days.
Good deal. Caleb, what you got going on?
Man, I was looking at that tide Saturday, and all I could think was all that water getting up in the grass and getting everything good and perky and ready for the
fall. I was
fall.
thinking. Yeah.
Yep. Looks like a pretty weekend to me. Go drift, wade, whatever you want to do. It's gonna be looks like bluebird skies, but hey, we're almost to the good stuff. So go enjoy the kind of good stuff right now. So the good stuff is even better.
I'm gonna be fishing Galveston this weekend. I got a 4-day weekend. I'm gonna go down to see Roy and Gene Crush, obviously from Texas Boys Outdoors, and I think he might have even entered us in a tournament, but I don't know how serious we're going to take it just to go down there. Yeah, so that's going to be fun to get back on Galveston for a while.
I'm going to be at Highland Park this weekend in Baytown at the Formula One boat races. If any Bite Me people want to see boats that go 120 straight and turn left at 75, we're going to be out there hanging out. If you are out there, hit me up. I'll get you back in the pits or let some Bite Me people have a good time.
Man of the people.
That's it.
Well, good deal. Anything we need to know before we get out here? Because
wish me luck. Saturday's the Wildlife and Focus banquet.
Oh hell! We should have mentioned that earlier. That's badass.
Be in San Antonio for that. So,
and you're feeling good about most of your categories?
Yeah, we'll see where we end up.
Yeah,
I don't know. I hate to do any predicting.
No, you can't predict.
Can't never tell, man.
There's no. It's when there's judges involved. You can't
exactly.
predict.
And the thing of that's some supreme competition, man. There is some high quality photos that pass through that thing. I'll
be up there with our buddy Bill Harvey.
Nice. Nice. Well, we're all going to have stories next week. So that'll be good. I haven't fished Galveston in a minute. So I think last time was with Captain Mickey. But we'll have some fun. You got something, Caleb, it looks like?
Nah, Scott and Larry are on Angler U tonight. And I told the masses they were going to talk about redfish and trout and tarpon and stuff. Scott and Larry are going to talk about tarpon for an hour and a half. In my absence, if anybody here would mind going to get in the chat and asking some redfish questions to keep it well rounded, I'd really appreciate you.
All right, boys. Really good show, man. I enjoyed the knowledge imparted there. So appreciate it. We're going to have updates from all over the place by next Tuesday when we meet again. You guys have a great week, great weekend. Catch them up. We'll talk to you next time.
Scott, would you say your photography contest could be won and lost in a flash?